this is the horrible example, but like an example would be like Kanye, right? When he was doing like what is it like all the like he's doing like all the gospel like the choir and like all of that, right? And he's making those records, like he's making those records. There are some people, they love Kanye so much that they listen to that and they completely gave their life to Christ, and they don't listen to Kanye at all no more, or even the new stuff, because they're like, yo, that's not where I'm at. I think sometimes
he even had him going to Sunday service talking about going to church. So
exactly.
Big, I said, yeah, a big.
You know what I mean? Like, because it's, y'all are right. You can be influenced either way. I think the biggest thing is we can't fully control whether somebody will lean left or right. But what we can do as believers is put out that positive alternative and hope that something manifests in them that becomes bigger and greater.
With Kanye, we thought that Kanye was really giving his life to God, and so I feel
like he did. I think he slid all the way.
I don't know. But for us, that's why people started listening to his music. Christian was listening to his music.
Yeah,
and he became really big in that Christian space. Simple fact for that. Go ahead.
Because who are we to say that this man, his profession of faith is false?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what I was getting.
So we believe when he said that. But for us on D1 side, Aim never said that. The artists that he's had on the on his songs, they never said none of that. Maybe they just they treated it like it was radio play. I don't want.
I got you.
I'm not.
That's a different perspective.
I look at a D1 not necessarily like a Christian artist. I look at him like a positive artist because he's more focused on rappers talking about robbing, stealing, and killing, which is good. Amen.
Right.
But I don't hear not just stop talking about robbing, stealing, and killing, but no, you need to follow Jesus. When I sit down and watch interviews from him, I don't hear enough words of Jesus. I don't hear script. I don't hear a person putting out scripture and then let me fill in the meaning of that scripture. I don't hear nothing about homosexuality. It's an abomination before the law God. I don't hear nothing about abortion. I hear a lot of political stuff.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thank you for tuning to TwistedYounginz, the most unorthodox show on the globe. I am one of your hosts, Myra B. King, and we thank you all for tuning in. We hope everyone is having a blessed day, staying safe, staying out of the way. Jesus is Lord. And if you aren't saved, now would be a perfect time to get saved. And if you are a Christian, continue to follow the word, continue to pray to the Lord, and pray for his help to deal with the spiritual warfare, guys. And I'm excited because we have another testimony today on this episode.
I'm Desi Dez, and today we have a special guest today. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Thank y'all for having me on the podcast. My name is Quinelle Holder, but most people call me Q, or they call me Coach Q. I am a publicist by trade. Me and my wife, we own a consulting company called Medium Creative Agency. We've been married for 10 years now. We just celebrated our 10-year marriage anniversary last June. And we have 2 kids. We got a 2-month-old baby boy. Same name as me. We call him Q2. And we got a little girl, 5 years old, named Zanif, which we homeschool her. And I've been doing public relations now for coming up on 15 years.
And for the people who don't know what public relations is, could you explain that to them?
Yeah, for sure. And I guess in the most layman terms, public relations is how you relate to the public. It's their vantage point of view, what they think about you. I think one of the big reasons why public relations is important is if you have a narrative that you want to get out, you need the right people to communicate the proper message, especially in this day and age where there's a lot of miscommunication. So you put something out, people will take it one way and run with a story. If you don't have the right support, you can't reroute them, back to actually showcasing who you are. I mean, I'll even be transparent. I mean, you know, I've worked with and dealt with some people who what the public thinks is true. And my job at that time was to reel it back and be like, hey, they got some good qualities too. But that doesn't negate the fact that, yeah, they made some mistakes in the past as well. But yeah, that's public relations in short.
And where are you from?
I'm living in Richmond, Virginia right now, Short Pump, Glen Island area. But I grew up in the 757, Virginia, Hampton, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Bad News, you know, I was 7 cities for real. I was a little bit of everywhere, but I mainly grew up in Hampton. And then when I was a little older, I spent some time in Newport News.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
What was it? What was it like growing up in VA?
Oof. It was interesting. So I have a twin sister. And I have a little brother who's about 6 years younger than me. Mm-hmm. And my parents, again, like I told y'all, they're from New York. My mom's grew up more on the Queens side, South side. My dad, his family is more from like Brooklyn, Canarsie area. We got family all over, but when they had us, that area and that time, it was getting real crazy. You know, this is like, for a lack of better words, this is Supreme Team. You know, this is Young 50 Cent. This is, this is Bimmy. This is, Miss Deb. You know, Queens it was getting shaky. You know, my parents was like, my uncle was in the military. He was already in Virginia. He was down at the naval base, and they were like, look, let's take an opportunity to see if we can get y'all away from this, because we see where it's going, and just get a whole new outlook on life. And I'm so glad that they did, man, because I'm gonna tell you right now, which I'll get into more, the way that I was moving and coming up, I think a lot of it was an identity crisis, because I felt like I needed to be doing more, and I wasn't as connected with my cousins. But I said that to say, yeah, man, growing up, I would say it was fun. I was pretty average kid. But like I said, once I started to kind of get into my teens, full transparency, like identity crisis, you know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to be, I don't know. I wanted to be anybody that wasn't me. I was super skinny. I was a super skinny kid coming up. I would say I had quite a bit of friends, but I never really felt like I fit in. You know what I mean? Like, it was a lot of situations where I honestly just felt like, again, like I just didn't belong. That was me not realizing like what God, had for me and what I would be doing in the future. But when you were a kid, sometimes it's just lame. I had, me and my sister both had glasses, and I used to play basketball a lot. And that would kind of get me, to be around some different kids and things like that. But I could always tell it was just different. There was something missing. And I would say up until maybe like maybe like the summer of like my sophomore year, like high school, that's when I started to like really regain my identity. That's also when I got baptized again. So I was still listening to like heavy, like heavy secular music. But I was starting to listen. This is around the time when like Kanye started like good music. So I got introduced to like Lupe Fiasco, and I was still listening to more of like stuff that was still street, but it was still very like conscious. Like I was listening to like Jadakiss and the Lox, different things. And I just started to see like, wait, okay, so you can like rap and hip hop, but you don't have to be a tough guy. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, cause I'm not. I'm like 100 pounds soaking wet, like out here just doing whatever. Like, nah, this ain't gonna work. And then along with that, like I said, I got baptized, and I think at that point, like I really started to get a lot more sense of identity, a lot more worth of who I was. And And this is when the industry started to come into mind. I was, this always sounds funny when I say it, but I started like rapping. I had like a little rap crew that we used to hang with. It was like a group of us, some folks from New Jersey and some folks from New York that went to my high school.
What'd you call yourself?
New Era, like the hats. This was like back in the day. You know, we used to have like the white t-shirts, and you have something spray painted, or you do the what was it, like the act? Y'all know what I'm talking about, like the actual paint, and you would write, you know, right?
Airbrush,
y'all know what I'm talking about, like,
the airbrush,
the airbrush, and then you know all of that. So we got some shirts made up, and you know we'd be rapping and stuff over like, you know, beats we found on the internet and this, then the third. And the cool thing is, I think we were all pretty good. I think the biggest thing for me is I knew things shifted when that rap group ended up turning into like having gang elements, and like we started to like, you know, just get into it with other crews and things in my high school. And I'm like, man, we rap. What are we doing? Like, what is happening right now? You know, you get so caught up in just wanting to be a part of something. And that's when I kind of was like, and I think one time I was at the studio and I came home from the studio, and people were smoking in there, and I came in the house, and my dad was like, hey, you been smoking? And I was like, nah, Pops, you know, I don't smoke. And he was like, you smell like smoke. And it just made me start to realize like, yo, even if I don't feel like what they're doing is that wrong, I was like, this don't really feel like me. I feel like I'm forcing myself to try to be around and get involved with some stuff, because I knew I loved music, and I knew God was telling me he wanted to do some powerful things with me through the music, but I didn't understand how. So at that point, I'm thinking I need to be in the booth doing something. And after a while, I was like, nah, I don't think that's the thing for me. And then I just started more or less like helping other people kind of facilitate and do things. And this kind of got me up to really when I started getting my feet wet in the industry. I reconnected with one of my childhood friends that actually, like I said, grew up in Newport News. I was in Hampton. It was like his 18th birthday, and he had a birthday party. And he had a crew as well, and they had a clothing line. And he showed me a presentation. I was like, this is what I think I'm supposed to be doing. And he was like, well, you know, I'll give you a shot. And they had a clothing line. And the clothing line, of course, as always, you know, this is back in the day, this is the blog era. Everything was a movement. So, you know, if you had a crew, you had a clothing line, and everybody rapped, and y'all did all of this. And he was like, hey, you can be on the street team and kind of get things rolling for us, and we'll see where we take it from there. I want to say it took me like, and it's like I said, it's like MySpace time. I want to say it took me maybe like two months, and he was like, yo, you're doing like more than everybody in this. There was like 6, 7 of us. He was like, you're doing more than everybody in the group. He was like, yo, how are you able to get so many people to like click on our page and check out what we're doing and all this other stuff? And I was like, I don't know, man. I always felt like I was a facilitator. I always felt like I could bring people together. I was like, but I always needed a purpose, and I felt like I never had that. So I always attached myself to something. And literally after that, my friend calls me down, and he's like, yo, I'm gonna make you the general manager of this thing. I'm like, general manager? I don't even know what that is. I'm like, that sounds dope though. Sound like some type of executive position or whatever. And yeah, man, I took a sense of pride in that. I went on and worked with a couple of different other clothing lines. It got really, really good. Actually, one of my business partners was, for one of the clothing lines I worked with, was my youth leader. He was an ill graphic design artist and a photographer. He actually lives in LA now. Him and his wife do that professionally. His wife is a makeup artist. And it just started to move. And I think because God kind of, like, me linking up with my old friend was God getting me in the door of where he wanted me. And then me continuing on with my youth pastor to kind of push this clothing line out that I was working on with him. I think I started to kind of catch God's glimpse of like, hey, here's the path that I want you to go on. And man, before I knew it, that clothing line was like blowing up. We got invited on tour with Wiz Khalifa and Chevy Woods. This is like Black and Yellow times. like right before Black and Yellow pops. So Wiz is hot. He's like the hottest thing on the internet. You know what I mean? It's just like Wiz is so hot. He's like bringing currency. Like currency is a little older than Wiz, but he's bringing currency back. It's just like the jet life, you know, all of that. And we doing all this from a computer, man. Some kids from Virginia making some mock-ups up. And then at that time, we didn't have the money to print up and make the shirts. So we would go get blanks. We would do photo shoots, and then he would Photoshop the images on the clothes so it would look like it was already done. And then we would charge the price and then have it. It was really pre-ordering, and then the place would drop ship the stuff to people, and that's how we was paying our bills. But I really got closer to God around that time because me and him were working as business partners. But again, he was my youth leader. So while we're working, he's all this doctrine. He's like explaining to me like, yo, this is the purpose. This is the reason why you have influence, all this stuff. I'm like, dang, that's what all of this is for. He's like, yeah, bro. He's like, he was like, you didn't feel out of whack for no reason. He was like, you felt weird. He was like, because you didn't know your identity. It was like, you know what I'm saying? So like he reminded me and instilled in me, it was like, yo, you're a son of God. He was like, number one, he was like, but number two, he was like, you're meant to stand out. He was like, even look at you, look at your name, look at the fact that your family chose you and your sister to move down here and the rest of your family stayed up there. He was like, you were meant to stand out. He says, your problem is you felt uncomfortable because you kept trying to fit in. And you were designed to stand out. You were designed to be different. And I was like, man, that makes so much sense. I was like, even down to my name, because I remember, I love it now. You know, that's why I named my son. But man, when I was growing up, that joint, it wasn't cool. Because my full name is like Quinelle. And this was around the time when Cornell Notes came out. And you know, kids, they hard. Well, Cornell, oh, this Cornell Notes right here. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my gosh, now I got to run with this the whole time. And again, like before I knew it, like, you know, I realized that people really loved the fact that I was different. And I ain't even gonna lie to y'all, there were things when I was coming up I didn't necessarily like, and I thought was kind of weird from other people's perspective, which was things like I always had real good relationships with both men and women, right? Always, I know I could be around women and they felt comfortable in a way that they wouldn't with other people. So much so to the point to where people would be like, yo, hey, Q, we want to do something, to have a party or whatever. Hey, you get the girls to come out. And I started realizing like, wait, y'all don't just want me to have the girls come out just to come out. I'm like, y'all are trying to using me because you know they feel comfortable and safe with me and how I move. I'm like, y'all using me, so I'm like, so y'all can do, you know, whatever. And again, when you coming up, like a lot of this stuff is like, why? It's weird to you because you don't have that full understanding of, wait, no, you're supposed to treat women with a certain level of respect and people are supposed to feel comfortable around you. And the reason why I think they would really feel comfortable is because I would always treat any of my female friends like they were my sister, right? And I'm like, hey, even when they would come out with me, even if they had boyfriends, I would always say, hey, yo, it's my responsibility to hold you down. I was like, because whether it's your boyfriend, your brother, your father, whoever it is, they entrusted you with a man. You know what I mean? Like whether we romantic or not, they trusted you, you know, with an authority figure. So yeah, so that's how I got to the place to where working with my my youth pastor, who was my business partner, that's how I really got in the game. And I would say I actually jumped into quote unquote me starting to really get into things past the clothing line. He got married and he moved to LA. When he moved to LA, I was happy for him. And he was kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna move to LA. We can set up shop. And I really started thinking about it. And I was like, this sounds cool, but how we really gonna run a business and you in LA? I'm like, and I'm down here. I was like, I don't know. So from that point forward, I was still kind of working on some things. But I kind of stepped away from the clothing line thing. Oh, and I really want to make sure I say this. We got invited on tour, but we didn't go because my business partner, I laugh, we talk about this all the time. The email that he got for the tour invite, he got it. He opened it late. So I told y'all Wiz was coming up. By the time he opened the email, Wiz was the biggest. He was already, and it was late. And I'm so grateful because I can tell y'all right now, if me and him would have went on that tour, I think it would have ruined our life. And we had friends who ended up that were close to that crew and went on that tour, and it was bad. It was bad. They got in front of everything that they probably shouldn't have. And I'll get into this a little later because it's a part of my story too. I tour managed as well. But when I went out to tour manage, because I didn't experience that and I got to really grow into who I was and be comfortable with myself, man, I was out on tour. It was so crazy to the point to where, like one, and I don't mind sharing this, like one of the artists that I used to tour manage was Designer. Guy who made the Panda record or whatever. My boy Sydney, man. And he, honestly, man, truly a good dude, talented dude. But his manager, I'll never forget, because I think I told y'all my wife does radio, but she's also a published photographer. I was on tour with them. I think we were going to London or something, and because I was the tour manager. She was his main manager, so she was in DC getting a photo shoot done with my wife. She's literally bragging my wife and was like almost like it was a secret. She was like, "Hey man, you know your husband actually, like, he don't be talking to other girls on the road. He don't be cheating." I was like, you know that? And my wife just laughing at her like, "Yeah, I know my husband." And she's like, "But it's just weird though, because not too many people can be out here on this road and not succumb to a certain level of temptation and doing certain things." And so much of it, like I said, I think had to do with the fact that there were opportunities that came up, and I thought, like, even when my business partner didn't open that email at a certain time, I was mad at him for a second, but that was God's protection.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't need to be out on the road. And I got to develop myself from that time up until I really started to jump into, which is how I got into public relations, blogging per se. I'm not even gonna say journalism because it didn't get there yet, but that's how I jumped into blogging, trying to continue to kind of push out the clothing lines. I got my first big opportunity. I created a blog called the Red Tag Society. Y'all familiar with like Levi jeans and the red tag on the back? So I created a blog called the Red Tag Society. Levi's was like the hottest thing, especially like the skinny, slim fits and all that. That stuff was like coming back heavy. And obviously, like I said, like my family's from New York, so that influence was like coming down. Like, y'all got to keep in mind, this is again, blog era. So this is like pro era. This is like Mac Miller. Y'all know, like the cool kids, like all of that stuff is coming down. And I'm making this blog. And in order for me to get this clothing line out without looking corny, what I would do is make like a blog and kind of like post all of this lifestyle culture stuff and then put our stuff in the middle. And the way that I promoted it, I wouldn't act like it was my clothing line. I would just act like it's a dope clothing line. And just like how y'all have a platform, you know, people don't have to know so much about your platform because of like the vanity. People will go anywhere where they're asked to kind of talk. So I would invite people to do interviews and my wife would record them. I always like to make sure I mention her because we really been doing this from like day one together. So she would like record them and I would post them on the blog. And it got to the point to where it ended up coming across the social media manager for Levi's. He ended up seeing it. He liked what we were doing. He ended up giving me like an official stamp. He started sending me products from Levi's to like review. Again, all of this is while the clothing line is heating up. You know, we're getting invites to go on tour. Things were working very well. But like I said, once my partner moved, I had to figure out a pivot. So it went from me only starting that blog to get the clothing line stuff out to me actually becoming like a blogger. And that's when things changed for me. We started doing those interviews. I think our first big interviews was Lupe Fiasco, ASAP Rocky, and who else? I can't even think of who the other person was at the time, but just those two. And then locally, because I told you I was in Virginia in the 7-5, Hampton University had their homecoming. Right before, it was either before or after that, Kendrick Lamar came to perform. Now, this is when he's not the star. J-Rock is the star. So Kendrick is still coming up, just out here doing the shows. I knew about Kendrick Lamar because my girlfriend at the time had put me on. So we went and got this Kendrick Lamar interview. This is very important. This interview and me having this blog is what changed everything. We do the Kendrick Lamar interview, put the Kendrick Lamar interview out. One of my youth pastor's friends was like, hey, I know you're looking for some gigs and trying to do some things. Because keep in mind, while you're doing all this, and y'all probably know or understand, like when you coming up, like there's a lot of expenses. So a lot of stuff people see you do when you're paying dues, like you're not getting paid. You're paying to be there. Like you want to be in the mix so you can build a portfolio. He was like, I know you're looking for some work and some extra stuff to do. He sends me a link for an application for Fader internship. Are y'all familiar with the Fader magazine at all?
Yeah, Fader.
Yeah, okay. So the Fader used to have an internship program called Farm Team, which stands for Field and Research Marketing. I apply and I'm thinking to myself, man, I don't even know why I'm applying. I'm like, yo, this is for college. At that time, I was like, I had dropped out of community college. I was like, man, ain't nobody gonna want to deal with me. Yo, I got a hit back 3 days later. It was the hiring manager. And the first thing he says is, yo, what do you know about Kendrick Lamar? How'd you get this interview?
Wow.
And keep in mind, again, Kendrick was coming up, but he wasn't that big yet. The thing but they already knew, because Fader is a magazine, but the magazine is an extension of the label. So Fader is like a full-fledged like marketing company, and the magazine just helps them market everything. So some people only know the magazine, but they're heavy in the music industry. When he said that, what he was really saying was, you're ahead of the curve. He knew how big they were because they were already taking meetings in New York. He understood how big Top Dog and TDE and all that was before we saw it really come into fruition. So he was asking because he was trying to figure out, he's like, yo, you got something. Like, that's a discovery. Like, for you to be in Virginia worried about a Kendrick Lamar interview, when at the time, I think Miguel was on that bill, Travis Porter, like Kendrick was way at the bottom, like on the list. But the fact that we did the interview, it made the recruiter go, yo, you got an eye, you got an ear for something. You see something different. He was like, yo, I would love to have you as, work as an intern for us. He was like, but.
When you did the interview with Kendrick, what type of person was he?
Oh man, if I can be completely candid, the same person that he is coming across of now. Like, he literally told me in the interview that we did, he said, I said, when you get on, what do you really want to do? And he literally said, I want to get back to my community. He said, I want to give people certain opportunities. He was like, I want to let people know, like, it's another way that you can go about doing things. It's just crazy that after all these years, everything that he said he was going to do, I see him do. It's wild. And then Kendrick even helped me a lot when I was dealing with like ups and downs in my faith, because I started, especially like them older records, I realized he was in a place of like unsurety about his faith and how he would convey messages and put music out. And it was dope, because I was like, wait, I'm really listening, and I'm like, oh man, this man, I don't know his personal life. I said, but from what I'm hearing, he does have an understanding of who God is and what's happening and what's going on. And Kendrick was cool, man. And it's crazy how all these years later, fast forward, he's doing what he's doing. I felt like it was really full circle, because I also work with you familiar with D1?
Yeah.
So D1, that's my homie. I work with him a lot in the PR space and, just whatever else we got going on. But it was really dope to hear like Kendrick, even mention him, because it was a reminder. And a lot of people don't know, like D1 and Kendrick, like they came up like around the same class. People are seeing who D1 is now because he's like in the news, so it's more controversy. But like D1 been doing this so long. Like D1 was like in Forbes like 15 years ago. Like he's been doing this for a long time. So like I said, him and Kendrick are really like in that same tier group as far as when they were coming up. But to hear him shout him out, it just felt like a full circle of like God almost kind of like tapped me on my shoulder, like, I'm telling you, like I've been leading you and guiding you in a path that a lot of people can't understand and see, but I needed you to be able to be in this world, not of it, but enough to where you can get close and really have people's ears and be influential. Because even when we started the podcast, something that was I thought it was dope, was you were like, yo, it's you guys were just being very transparent about how it is when you go from not really having a relationship with God and then having one. Yeah. I know for me, I think the biggest thing that matters the most is that a lot of people think that the church, the music, the culture, all of this stuff is about and is for people who already know God. But if you already know God, you already know God. A lot of the things that we're meant to do is to reach people who don't. Yeah. And what is the most influential element
music
that we have as human beings is entertainment.
Yeah. And being salt to the world.
Come on.
No need to be salt in the church. You can't salt.
That's why the devil was over music.
Come on. Like y'all understand that. Like, but I'm gonna be honest, like I'll be completely candid. Now my parents completely get it. Fast forward, all these accolades, and I work with these labels and do all of this stuff. But I ain't gonna lie to y'all, man. There was some close family and friends. They was looking at me a little shaky, like, how you gonna be involved in this stuff and you claim you love God? And I broke it down like this, just like y'all said. Not only, like I gotta be salt, I gotta get out here and move around. But I said, it's interesting how you can feel that way about me. I said, but you can wake up every day, go to a 9-to-5 job. I was like, but who owns that company? Are they a believer? Is your boss a believer? Is his boss a believer? Is the corporation that own it? Oh man, I never thought about it like that. I'm like, that's what I'm trying to tell you, is that if you don't work in a church, if you're not like y'all and have like an actual podcast that's dedicated, you know what I mean, to the pushing the kingdom of God, it's secular. Most of us live and operate in a secular world.
Yeah,
right?
Secular education.
Yeah, but I don't think having a 9-to-5 job and the boss is like maybe he might be satanic, but I don't think that affects you. I mean, you might be just lifting lumber and putting it in the back of a truck or something like that.
No, for sure.
I think what he's trying to say, even though he's the area that he was in, him being a Christian, a man of God, he's comparing it to like the 9-to-5 jobs. You can work a job and that overhead may not be following God, but that doesn't necessarily mean you don't, correct, sir?
Like D1 making music with the game and people,
Exactly.
rappers and stuff like that. No, I mean, I don't think the church would be in agreement with that. Neither am I. I wouldn't work with a secular artist. You supposed to be ye separate. What communion have light with darkness? If I'm going to evangelize to him, brother, I can give you the gospel. For sure,
right.
But we can't work together because we're coming together. Light and darkness don't come together, and I don't want to put my fans in front of what you got to rap about. And yes, I want the audience, but that don't mean I'm willing to get on a song with you. No, I'll evangelize to you on camera so people can know my stance and my views and how I'm a devout Christian. But making music, no.
Yeah, I think that was a good point. Do you know that on any records that D1 has artists on, they don't cuss and they only talk about the subject titles that he has for? So he makes sure that he makes sure that the music he makes and he puts out, it's the same quality and the value when he puts it out. So if he has like a game, or like he just had Project Pat or whoever he has on it, or he had Raheem Devon on one of them, he always makes sure that it's there on his message and his time.
Yeah, so for example, real quick, Des, I know I definitely see what you're saying. Like, hey, if D1, I'm making this music. Hey, this is what I'm speaking about in here. Don't bring that over here. Right. But at the same time, D1 has a huge fan base. So if a fan, they probably never heard of a Project Pat or a Game or a Lil Tyler, but once they do a song with you, and then they go look up Lil Tyler or the Game or Project Pat, and the first thing they open up on that guy's Instagram, him blowing weed, him hanging out with women, him in the club. So it's like, well, whoa, wait a second, is this, it can be confusing. You got light and dark, and it's like, okay, if we're doing a song together, it's almost like showing to that person like you're in agreement with it. That's just like with me. If you see me, if I'm with if it's the same thing. I'm holding myself accountable too.
Right.
If I'm saying this, the next thing you know, if you happen to see that I collab with somebody that you never heard of, you're like, oh, okay, this is dope. Let me go look this person up. Yeah. First thing you see, she could be in a strip club. She's smoking, drinking, turning up, talking about, I want to, I got 4 or 5 bodies. These are simps out here. Then you're like, well, wait a minute. What kind of character does Myra have? Is she really, why would, So it just gives off.
No, that makes sense. I definitely understand. I definitely understand that. I think both of y'all make really good points. I think I always look, so that's true. I look at the other side of the coin too, only because there's some people who will never be until they get interested. Like, this is a horrible example, but like an example would be like Kanye, right? When he was doing like what is it, like all the, like he's doing like all the gospel, like the choir and like all of that, right? And he's making those records, those records. There are some people, they love Kanye so much that they listen to that and they completely gave their life to Christ, and they don't listen to Kanye at all no more, or even the new stuff, because they're like, yo, that's not where I'm at. I think sometimes
even had him going to Sunday service talking about going to church. So
exactly.
I said, yeah, a big.
You know what I mean? Like, because y'all are right. You can be influenced either way. I think the biggest thing is we can't fully control whether somebody will lean left or right. But what we can do as believers is put out that positive alternative and hope that something manifests in them that becomes bigger and greater.
With Kanye, we thought that Kanye was really giving his life to God, and so
I feel like he did. I think he slid all the way.
I don't know. But for us, that's why people started listening to his music. Christian was listening to his music.
Yeah.
And he became really big in that Christian space. Simple fact for that. Go ahead.
Because who are we to say that this man, his profession of faith is false?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what I was getting.
So we believe when he said that. But for us on D1 side, Aim never said that. The artists that he's had on his songs, they never said none of that. Maybe they just they treated it like it was radio play. I don't want.
I got you.
I'm not going.
That's a different perspective.
I look at a D1 not necessarily like a Christian artist. I look at him like a positive artist because he's more focused on rappers talking about robbing, stealing, and killing, which is good. Amen.
Right.
But I don't hear not just stop talking about robbing, stealing, and killing, but no, you need to follow Jesus. When I sit down and watch interviews from him, I don't hear enough words of Jesus. I don't hear script. I don't hear a person putting out scripture and then let me fill in the meaning of that scripture. I don't hear nothing about homosexuality. It's an abomination before the law God. I don't hear nothing about abortion. I hear a lot of political stuff.
Fellow Christians, either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris will be our next president. Neither one of them is perfect, but we can't vote for this dude. I don't agree with everything that Kamala Harris stands for either, but I will be voting for her because the goal is to be like Jesus, and this ain't it.
The very existence of the LGBTQ plus people are under assault.
Where does Kamala Harris stand on LGBTQ plus rights? In 2004, while serving as district attorney in San Francisco, Harris conducted marriages for same-sex couples after it was legalized in the city.
I'll never forget pulling up to see all the families of every configuration and just pure joy, pure happiness. It was such a special moment, and it was all about love.
In 2010, Harris became Attorney General in California and played a key role in restoring marriage equality by campaigning heavily against Proposition 8.
My opponent said he would defend Prop 8, which would have banned same-sex marriage, and I said I would not defend it. And I got a call. The plaintiffs have asked that you would be the person to perform their marriage. And I was like, are you kidding me? Of course.
By virtue of the power and authority vested in me by the state of California, I now declare you spouses for life.
She also successfully advocated for the gay and transgender panic defense to be outlawed in California, a legal strategy used to claim that a perpetrator was panicked into committing a violent crime due to an unwanted advance from a gay or trans person. Since becoming vice president in the Biden-Harris administration in 2020, Kamala has continued to be a vocal advocate for LGBTQ+ rights.
In states across our nation, extremist, so-called leaders have fanned the flames of hate and homophobia for political gain.
We know she supports zero restrictions on abortion, and yes, in this upcoming interview, she basically admits that. Watch this.
You do support restrictions after viability.
I support Roe versus Wade being put back into law by Congress and to restore the fundamental right of women to make decisions about their own body. It is that basic.
But you know, there are restrictions. With Roe versus Wade, there were restrictions after viability.
We would not be debating this if Donald Trump had not hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And what we have seen, as demonstrated last night and every day these last 2 years.
And then also, when it comes to D1, to me, he's a cloud chaser as well. You know, the reason why he got into it with Jim Jones, Rick Ross, and Meek Mill, why did he get into it? Why did he say their name? It's a whole lot of industry of rappers that's rapping about Robert Steele the Killer. There's a whole lot of stuff going on. Why did he mention those 3 people at that time? Because they was on their radio tour, and he know that will get as much press. That would get a lot of press. So let me mention these 3 guys because I know they about to drop a album, and you know. So to me, I just feel like I said, I feel like he's a positive artist that focus on rappers more so than promote the promotion of Jesus than actually sowing seed.
Like, he would be the person too. Like if we had someone that like D1, he makes good music. He makes good music, but we had like that person, like my brother and I were speaking with someone in a previous interview, like
at Track Stars.
We're speaking with Track Stars DJ.
Oh, yeah.
If we had like how Tupac was passionate on what he stood on, you know, like, hey, we need help in the hood, we need this, and then his music also followed up with that. It was dope. Like if we had like a Christian artist in the space who's dope, but as well as when you look at that Christian artist, you know, okay, I know he's a man of God. This is a man of Jesus. He's speaking on this and that. And he also makes dope music. He's, you know, he's not willing to compliment or sacrifice anything. Like, you know, at all times, this is a man of God. This is, and you can bring a lot more, you can plant a lot more seeds like that too, because a lot more people will hear Jesus. And not only like, oh, I can follow Jesus and I can look like this and I can talk I see how this man is talking and all of that. I feel like we really we need that. And the people
I agree. I think there's a lot of folks that are coming up like that. I also think it's a lot, I'm not gonna say it's a lot harder. I think social, again, and this is me, as a publicist, I think it's harder because it's very easy for someone to present themselves a certain way, or even you interpret them a certain way and assume that that's them completely. You know what I mean? Like, because that's all you have.
Put out.
You know what
that's what we got to go by, what they put out.
Yeah, that's all we can go by. You know what I mean? Like, I know for, like, I'll give you an example. Like, I know for a fact, like, if you come across like my social media or you see certain things, there are people that may not know, like, yo, me and my wife are youth, you know, we're youth pastors. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's people that might not know, like, heavily involved with a lot of community work. You know what I mean? There's people that might not know, like, you know, I'm constantly advocating and fighting for, you know, the rights of music artists, you know, through the Recording Academy and through, you know, NAACP and through, you know, different other things. And I think that, to y'all point, I think what makes it harder is it's hard to paint a full picture of who you are in a bite-sized social media type of way. So sometimes what people do, and from an influence standpoint, is they try to do enough where they can reach enough people to just to bring them in enough to where it's like, okay, I see where you're going. And then if they can really follow that and start to have their own encounter and their own relationship, like, it can get deeper. But I feel where y'all coming from. And I think this conversation is very healthy because sometimes it feels like it's a left or a right. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we're trying to do the same thing, but it depends on, because I think something that's important too is, because one thing I love is, I'm even hearing from y'all, like, I love how y'all are like standing on what y'all believe. If we don't have people like y'all, too many people will be too whimsical. Like, everything will always be like, oh yeah, well, you never know, you can da-da-da-da-da. Nah, you can't have that. Like, but you do have to have some people that go, okay, everything you're saying is true. But if somebody is truly, truly lost, and I'm working with an artist and we're doing a studio session, and I come in there, whatever they're doing, whatever they got going on, it can be in between breaks, somebody grabbing food, and for 5 minutes, I can look at somebody. They could be drunk, high, whatever it is they got going on. And I'm like, yo, you good?
No.
Yo, not really. What's going on? And before you know it, I can witness in that 5-10, but no one else can get as close to them as I'm going to be able to get as close to them, because no one else is willing to be in that sphere, because for a lot of them, being in that sphere is going to cause them to sink. It's not going to cause them to be able to have that type of real relationship. Because one thing I will say, and y'all are doing it right now with the podcast, is that it's so tough to get believers to meet people where they're at, like Jesus would, to the point to where, because I feel like y'all get what I'm saying. Like,
exactly.
Between right or wrong.
100%.
But just like how you was around your friends and you didn't smoke.
Yeah.
God have put you in a situation in the studio with an artist that's high, messed up, and can't really focus and stuff like that. You can evangelize to that person, right? Yeah. You can tell them, give them the gospel or whatever, but you don't have to make music with them, to do that.
No, that's true. That's true. Like you said, yeah, that's true.
And then how I look at it through social media is like, like I'll get this analogy, like, a basketball game. Your life is the basketball game. Your social media, when you do an interview, when you do music, when you do for what you put on social, what you put on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, all that, that's like the fourth quarter. That's the crunch time. That's when Michael Jordan wake up. When you get in front of the camera, right. That's when your faith is supposed to be seen. It's supposed to be known. Yeah,
it's like the highlight. It's like the highlight reel, right?
Yeah. Because only person, when people follow you, all they know is the highlights. When you put what you put on social media, you smiling all the time. They just think this boy always happy. They don't see you crying, it's sad or whatever. So that's, to me, I think it's more meaningful what you put on social media than what you do in your actual life. God see that because we can't judge you. I mean, we're not going to condemn you anyway. So between you and God, what you and talk to this man that's going, you and talk to a homeless man, you and pray for him, you and gave to him. But you can say that in your fourth quarter. You can do all of that. Right. But we need you to if you want to say you're a Christian, you led by God, we need to hear the words of God, and we need to see the standard being set.
And see, this is also a thing I want to give credit before you speak to you and your wife, because I didn't know that you did all that. Honestly, those are seeds that we need to see. It was a point in time way back when the singers first coming in the music industry were gospel singers. That music was so powerful, had such of an influence back then. And then people start making sacrifice for it. We can speak positive, or we can just talk about love. What I mean? And then that love turned into speaking right out. Oh, sex, I want you. Then they sold
right. It went to lust, from love to lust, right.
And then killing and robbing. So what I'm saying is that you being public relations, and I know a big part of your job, you can make things look good. You can bring things
right. That's a big part of it.
You know what I mean? So you can bring those seeds to life. I would have loved to go on your page, and I'm like, oh wow, he's a youth minister. Him and his wife doing this, and you can also catch him at this event tomorrow. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's like if the only thing, and this is not a disrespect to jab to you, I'm just speaking in general. But if the first thing that I see is like, oh wow, he's dope, he's successful, he's with this artist, he's with this, he's with that. But at the same time,
that youth pass attached to it.
I was able to see. Yeah. If he's a youth pastor, what kind of seeds is he planting? Because if we put in front of you, and you can see it within the Black community, if all they being put in front of them is basketball, rap, a lot of our kids are going to want to be basketball players and rap players. Football. But if you start implementing, you can be an engineer, you can be an architect. It may be a wide range of things being promoted. So same thing with here in this case, if we can start implementing and not saying we are afraid, but just putting in hey, yes, I'm a youth pastor, and I also in the past I've worked with this artist, and I did this. My wife and I do this. You have more people coming out I can respect that. You know what I mean? It may seem like he's going against Kanye West, Kendrick Lamar. A lot of their popularity I feel increased because they go against the grain. They speak out about certain things. Kanye West was talking about Jesus and the Jew. I don't know if his life was aligned with that, but then I didn't hear any other rappers speaking about that. Not any other. I didn't see anybody else promoting that. So for a worldly person to do that, then it's like, what about a person who is in the space?
Yeah.
You can do that. You can be that dope, and you can do that and show your seeds. People respect that. God can use you to be in front of a ton of people, and they'll start changing their life based on your seeds. Yeah, this is a powerful black man of authority. He's also a man of God, and he also know how to conduct himself in Satan's entertainment industry. Like we need to see that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm trying to think of the best. I agree 1000%. One thing I will say is, particularly when it comes to God and the way that he uses us with our different gifts, is that there are certain people, like for me, like I said, like it, depending on what I'm doing or what I have going on, like you definitely can catch that. You know what I mean? Like I cleaned up some of my stuff because the new year was coming in. So I'm like putting in, you know, some of my new stuff. But I agree. Like I think there are some people that all the time there has to be more of like a loudness. But the one thing I do know about God is the way that he gives us all different gifts and ways to get the gospel apart. Sometimes they're different. One thing I've learned is when you're very passionate, which is, again, I'll go back to saying, I love this. Like now, it's funny, like I wasn't familiar with you guys. I'm talking to you now, did a little bit of research, talking to you now, and I get it. I get it wholeheartedly. I think the reason why there was y'all felt there was a void was because there was. Mm-hmm. One thing I know is that, but everybody's void and everybody's what's the word I want to look for? A point of entry is different. Because like I said, I'll be fully transparent. Had I not, and this is a shout out to Rodney Jerkins. Shout out Dark Child, man, celebrating 30 years.
I'm gonna ask you about that, you know,
of music. I was gonna say, but just if it wasn't for people like him, and it wasn't for like that Kirk Franklin, that Mary, that Trinity 5x7, that BBJ, that all of this. If I didn't, but I'm not gonna lie, it was also the proximity. I'm hearing Kirk, but then I'm hearing Salt and Pepper on a record. If there wasn't a proximity to things that I knew and grew up with that were secular, I wouldn't have been as interested into getting into the space that I am now. And I'm just saying that to say there are some kids, like y'all said, because they don't have people like us in their homes. They got them in the community maybe, but they don't have them in their homes. For some of them, it is going to take a basketball player, a rapper, whatever, to say something positive to get them to care about the other side of what's going on. And that's the part that sucks. Even sometimes it takes a reformed gang member to come back and say, hey, I'm not with that. Why? Because they actually respect them. The thing about the kids is right, but unfortunately, when you was raised the wrong way, you respect nonsense. You don't respect.
We have the pastors doing the same thing.
Go ahead. Oh yeah, I love that.
You know, the pastors, I'm sitting here listening to you speak. That's what we have the pastors doing. Not necessarily blending in with the world, but they become involved in the game. They become involved in the worldly way of things. They don't want to seem, you know, they're inviting these political figures out and they want to be seen with the rappers and the singers, but we're not hearing anything in between of that. You know, we're not seeing that. So it's like
they're not actually promoting Jesus. They're not actually on the front line saying, hey, I understand I'm making a bridge, but then there's also not a sign like, hey, but the only way is through Jesus. They're not doing that. That's
it. If I can hear that, you ain't got to come out and say, you're not going to have many pastors say, hey, it's a sin problem. We got drugs flowing in through in the hood. We got
that's real.
People not getting married. We got our women, they getting abortions. Nobody want to give a family. I get it. You're not gonna hear no pastors come out and keep it that real.
Not too
That's
many.
what you won't hear too many.
Or you might hear it, but it's gonna get 10 clicks.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But the pastors that are seen with this influence, you know, on this platform, you know, they seem to smile and send pictures.
You got Gino. As you know, Jenny.
Well, Gino was not in their element, though, is what I'm saying. I'm saying for the pastor that is like seen with these people in the industry, right? We're not even able to see if they're a pastor or not because they are afraid.
You talking about like you a pastor, but then like we see you at the Ciroc mixer.
Yeah, talking about like TD Jakes and people like TD Jakes. They say he was with bottom and
you know, like.
But tell us about Aliens Alive.
Yeah, man, Aliens Alive, man. Again, like I said, yo, I definitely want to take the time, man. Shout out Rodney Jerkins, man. Shout out Dark Child, man. 30 years of making music, producing, arranging. As y'all know, worked with everybody you can think of from top to bottom. But right now, as he is currently, in real time, just been inducted to the Songwriter Hall of Fame. This is wild. The last thing that he's doing, the most prominent thing that he's doing right now, is a record label, and it's a faith-based record label. It's called Aliens Alive, and that's what makes him so cool. And matter of fact, this is a caveat to our conversation before. Mm-hmm. Full transparency, without guys like Rodney Jerkins, you don't get guys like me. Mm. You don't get guys like me. Because I couldn't imagine, there was no blueprint or understanding of someone being able to be in the world and not of it without guys like him, right? And to see now that everything that we do on a day-to-day with the label and understand who he is, like, I ain't gonna lie, like, I knew, it was projected in a show, like, yeah, obviously Dark Child loves God and, he makes gospel music and all this stuff. But then actually being able to work with him, like, y'all, when we start our calls, prayer, he's sending verses. Like, when we have a disagreement, he go right to the word and be like, hey, this is how we supposed to be moving if we can't see eye to eye on this, or this is how we should handle this. And I'm like, yo, amen. Not only is this dude like obviously making and a part of like history, but I'm like, yo, this dude really lived like this. Back to what we would say, you can't see, you're starting to see it now on the social media and stuff. I'll tell y'all that right now too. My wife, she works with him and she works with his social. So y'all going to see a lot more of that, because that's what he was like, yo, I want to really rebrand and show people what I'm doing now. Because so many people only know me from the guy who makes hits. They don't know that, like, yo, I'm a devout believer. Amen. Like, I really live this. So now we're, to y'all point, sometimes you got to step back and make sure people can really see it. You know what I mean? So he's in that lane. But right now, his main focus, man, is Aliens Alive, man. And I mean, we got plethora of dope artists. I mean, from Alex Jean to Gashi to TJ Carroll, I Am Rescued, Gavi. I mean, yeah, man, this is, and it's crazy too, because I don't know if y'all.
John Keith, I think you got John Keith as well.
John Keith, who, let me tell y'all, by the way, when we got introduced to this project, because my wife is the one who was, she's a lot more, way more versed in the Christian hip hop space. She actually used to be the head of marketing over at RMG, Reflection Music Group, with Doc and Derek Minor and them. So my wife is actually the person, because again, we both grew up believers, but she's the person that even really jumped me into this world, because I knew about, like I said, I knew about all those other artists, but I didn't know that there was like a segue of like, yo, this is Christian hip hop and this is how it goes. And there's a whole different divide. I didn't understand all that. But I'm telling y'all, like, John Keith was the one that when we were going through, and I was like, yo, I said, this dude is I'm listening to his music. I said, if I wasn't watching the lyrics, I'm like, this is just a dope song anywhere, everywhere. I'm like, yo, the way he makes music is crazy. But if every lyric you listen to, every song, you're like, nah, man, this is like a testimony right here. Like, this dude is professing like Jesus Christ. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, the reason why I've been saying what I've been saying this whole interview is that all of it led up to this point of where, yeah, I still work with Lunch Money Lewis, who I love, out down in Miami. I work with a couple of different distribution companies, 1RPM. Like, I work with 1RPM, and I put out I helped push out and put out Dietrich Haddon's album that we just did. But I work in urban. So then I also have like, I can have Dietrich Haddon as a client, and then the next day Neo's my client. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling y'all this to say, if it wasn't for the journey that I took, I wouldn't even been able to be beside Aliens Alive and working with them in the PR capacity, because the funniest thing is the biggest thing that Rodney said when he was hiring, he said, I want somebody who understands, that loves God, but that understands what we're really doing and understands this landscape. And he was like, I don't, and no disrespect, y'all know how it goes sometimes. Yeah. It's like you come from the church, whatever. He's like, I don't need no corny. I don't need nobody that's corny, don't understand what's happening. He said, but I need them to really love God. Because y'all, I can feel like y'all in the same boat as me. Like, I'm a relationship, not religion guy. It's like, yo, we love Jesus Christ. I'm not checking no boxes. Jesus died for that.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that don't mean that we out here purposely sinning. That means that we are only saved by grace. Amen. We're not saved by works. Amen. Right? And that's what he wanted. He wanted somebody that was passionate, understood, still can get on that phone front line, call Billboard, call Vibe, call whoever we need to call and get stuff done, but really loves God. And that's what we doing over at Aliens Alive. Were y'all able to catch or did y'all know that we had the first Christian hip hop Rolling Loud stage?
Yeah.
No, well, see, here's the thing. At the last minute, I'm gonna follow you now, but I would have loved to be more in tune. That's dope. Yeah. You know,
thank you.
To have that and the shout out to that, because that was the first time that I saw it. It was late on when I saw it, but I'm like, wow, I wish we would have saw this being promoted, you know, like, because I've never saw anything like that. You know what I mean? I would have loved to help.
We only had like, and that's not on y'all. We had about like 3. We only like literally by the time it got announced, we literally had like 3 weeks, and it was the end of the year. So y'all know media cycles, everything was down. Yeah. Like there was some good promotion, but obviously, you know, Rolling Loud and all of that, and what was already there was already heavily pushed. So by the time it came to us, we did everything we could. But I'll tell you, to y'all point, that thing was so powerful because I thought about it. I said, yo, are you telling me and my wife were looking at each other. We said, are you telling me everything that we've done is up to this point? I was like, you can't get, this is the, Rolling Loud is the biggest hip hop festival in the world. I said, and on Sunday, at the beginning, the first thing that you see, whoever those people were, wherever they came, I think Playboy Cardi was that night. He was like the headliner that night, at that night. You had to come and deal with God. You had to deal with John Keith. You had to deal with Hovey. You had to deal with God. Like, it was just no big deal. Like, it was so powerful. Like, I literally looked at my wife and was like, babe, you, like, this is what everything that we've ever done is for moments like this.
Amen.
We're at the highest level in front of the world. I was like, people are able to see this. I was like, but this doesn't happen if you're not in the mix and close enough to be able to even have an opportunity, because you realize, yo, these kids is lost, but how can we get to them if they're not going to the places? Because to go back to what we said, if they already know God and they know Jesus, they know where to go. I love God, but I'm not a traditional, like you said, like me, myself, like we go to church every week. Like I said, I'm a youth pastor. I'm this, that, and the third. But I know the type of influence that God has on my life. He wants me to meet people where they're at. And the only way I can do that is to not only be submerged and have my community on my day in, my day out, but like y'all said, when it's showtime, who am I reflecting? What am I doing? Like, when does it matter? You know what I mean? Like, and like, to your point, like I understand that, like, to the highest level now. Like, my parents are so proud, because like I said, I'll be candid. You know, when you coming up and trying to do things, it looked different. I got an old school, like I said, I'm from New York. Look, I got an old school Pentecostal, you know, grandma from Brooklyn, New York. It was looking a little shaky when she was seeing me move around sometimes. Like, oh, is he okay, my grandbaby? And now she knows, and she's like, oh wow, okay, so you are literally being the light in these places. Yeah. Okay, so you did certain things to build up your resume and make connections and do, so it could be this. And I was like, yeah, but I didn't even know that at the time. I thought I was just chasing my dreams.
You know what just stuck out like a little bit? That guy, whoever, while you was on the road, that guy, was it a guy or a girl that called your wife?
Oh no, it was a girl. It was his manager. Yes.
And it was like, by your fruit, he glorified God. And she wanted to find out why he not like everybody else, every other dude I've ever seen, you know? Why is he not even looking? He not even turning around looking in that woman butt. He ain't tripping off being in no woman face. I don't see him all, you know what I'm saying? So it's such a blessing. That shows, like you said, being a light in a dark place. Yes, it's surrounded by darkness, but guess what? I'm here, and if somebody come and talk to me, I'm gonna tell you about the Lord. I'm gonna handle my business, but I'm not gonna partake of these things. I'm not worrying about my fleshly desires because God is my number one love, you know? So
no, you hitting it on the head. Like I said, it's little points like that. Matter of fact, I'll tell y'all today, I was talking to somebody that we kind of came up with in the Richmond area. And this is how, like, because me and my wife actually met in Richmond. That's why this place is so special to us. We met in Richmond and we only moved here because my wife literally said, God told her we need to move here. Nothing else. And I literally was like, my wife done everything that I wanted to do. She done followed me and went there. I said, if God told you that, we going to Richmond. And that's where we found our church home. You know what I'm saying? We go to a church called Life Point Church, but that's where we're at. But it's funny you said that because I'm on the phone with somebody that we came up with. And he used to get real drunk and do all this other crazy stuff. And he completely sober, turned his life around, whatever. And he was on the phone with me and we talked about some business stuff because I was calling him to help me clean up some records that we needed to be edited. And you know what the last thing he said on the phone, which is why it's crazy that you got prompted to even say that. He literally said, Q, before you go, can I tell you something? I was like, what's up? He said, yo, I love the way you and your wife move, man. Amen. He said, yo, y'all inspire me. He said, I have never seen up close in person people work in this space, but love each other, love their kids. Y'all ain't got no scandals, no this, no that, no whatever it is. He was like, and you really being true to you. He was like, and you got morals and values. And it was crazy because I did not expect him to say it. And I was like, that's the most important. That's what people get out of it. It's not, oh, you did this cool thing or you got this. People are looking at our character and our value. And the funny part is he said and he mentioned God multiple times. And I felt like he only felt comfortable because he sees that we mention God and promote it and say certain things. Yeah. I wasn't sure where he was at in his faith. But when he said it, it was like, God's like, yo, you're making a difference. And again, the influence ain't always going to be from the top up. It ain't always somebody see you somewhere big and do something. Sometimes it's someone that's seen you and watched you for 10 years and go, that's not fake.
Amen. Amen.
That's not fake.
They know the old you. That's it.
Right.
That's some faith. He believe in God for real. Amen. He's a devout Christian. It's levels to, Christians. Everybody should be a devout Christian. That's what God wants is a devout Christian. But some people profess Christian with their mouth, but in their works, they're far away from him. You know what I'm saying? In the things they do. But the reason he looked at you like that because you're a true Christian. You know what I'm saying? You got both of y'all have God first. It would never work. A relationship like what you have would never work if y'all was two first. Instead of if you replace God. Why? Because when you're not in the sight of her, she can do whatever in a hotel, you know, because you can't see nothing. And if you call and she don't answer the phone, you don't know what it went down. Only God knows that. If you got God as your first, as number one in your life, you know he sees everything. You ain't gonna get nothing past him inwardly. A lot of us sin inwardly. We think about the one we had in high school, college that we bent over, so inwardly, we following God inwardly and outwardly. And the things that we do inwardly manifests itself outwardly in our actions and the way we go about things. So that's why they saying it, man, because they see it. And I see that you're a true believer and you actually, you love promoting these guys and, love working with people of faith. I mean, I ask that you continue to do it and also continue to evangelize to people that may be far from God in that moment. But, all they got to do is believe on Jesus and they can be close with him.
100%. And something that you said, I'll just say this, that's so important is this. That's what I meant by because that's all we really can do. Because we can't make them choose God. Right. All we can do is put it in front of them. That's what I was saying. Is some folks, it sounds crazy, but some folks, it's crazy. This is my first time talking to y'all, and y'all, if y'all talk the same way, which I'm sure y'all do, like anywhere, y'all can come to me off the street and we'll just have a long conversation. The reason why is because there's a level of authenticity. Authenticity is not even necessarily Do you believe in God? Do you not? This and the third. Authenticity is I'm okay with being me.
Yeah.
Like you ever be around people that you know is completely different,
Yeah.
but you like, yo, we rock with each other because he's okay with being him. I'm okay with being me.
Yeah.
The reason why, like I said, that I think this whole thing is so important is at the end of the day, our only job is to put in front of them and say, hey, Jesus is Lord. Like, this is the only way. Like, whatever it is. And yo, I know you're going through whatever you're going through, but this is the way.
Amen. That's
all we can do. We ain't got to anchor it. There's nothing you do. Like, you don't got a soul. Like, you don't get a soul counter. You know what I'm saying? When you go see,
because
when you go see God, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, oh yeah, man, you got 100 souls. You good? Like, no, because to y'all point, you can do all of that, and then they could just backslide all the way off and be in a whole nother place as long as we put it in front of them. And that's why I said, like, stuff like these type of interviews where people get to see a little bit more inside of me, or even a platform like y'all's matters, because all it takes is that mustard seed.
Amen.
And your whole life literally changes when you really, clamp onto it. And that's the thing, like I said, that I think that's different, with me and my wife and it's, our crew and the people that we move around is like, y'all, it's not really the religion. It's really the relationship. Like, God, like, you brought me out. Like, there's no way other than through you. So I'm going to dedicate it. And like y'all said, it led up to this point, man. And I'm just thankful, man, to be working with Rodney and just everybody, man, that I'm able to work with. But to be able to spread the gospel at a high level and have some integrity is dope.
Amen.
Thank you so much for allowing us to interview you.
And God bless you and your family, and to see you a married man.
And promote yourself and let us know if you have anything coming or.
Oh yeah, man. So I think always, man, I try to keep it as simple as possible, man. Medium Creative Agency. That's the name of our company. Medium, CREATIVE. Agency. You can find us. You type that in Google, it'll pop up. You'll see my name, my wife's name. Her name is Sabrina. You can follow me at Quinelle Holder, on all social media. That's my tag. Aliens Alive, at Aliens Alive, on everything. But yeah, man, I think I think at the end of the day, I think more importantly than anything is, if you follow me, I'll make sure that I keep you in the loop with everything that we got going on. And I'll say something that I haven't said yet. And I've really been praying and thinking on it. I think my next step, because I also do like playlist curation and different things like that. I think my next step, I'm not going to say what the streaming platform is, but I think my next step is going to be, and y'all can, pray in agreement on it. I think it's going to be stepping into being a curator specifically for the Christian hip hop space.
Amen.
Again, like I've had a lot of experience with that. I'm already a curator for the DMV region through the Digilog. I was also the Hometown Heroes curator for Audio Mac. But I think that's going to be one of my next steps. I think really like pinpointing and picking and choosing. And like you said, I know my ear, and I know people, especially people that are not of the world. I know what they can hear that make them be like, oh, this hard. And I'll be like, yeah, that's a Christian, right? Huh? Yeah, that's like, it ain't that, you know what I mean? So I think that's going to be one of my next steps. Y'all just keep us prayed up, man. We got a lot of cool stuff coming. But yeah, man, I love this platform. It was refreshing to be able to speak with some believers. It was even refreshing to hear some of the pushback and some of y'all ideas and the way that y'all look and do different things, because you learn and you grow from that, right? But thank y'all, man. Like I said, I don't know what made you go, hey, let's interview him or what you saw, but obviously it was something special. So I'm grateful to be here and thank y'all for having me.
All right. Amen. God bless you, brother.
Thanks again.
Peace.